I want to give you a bonus here. Even before you start with the paid material, I've already given you a lot of information. But I want to show you a technique called havening. It was developed by two gentlemen that I'll talk about in a minute. But first, I want to show you how it works. So havening is a method of generating delta waves in your brain. Delta waves are the brain waves of deep sleep. And when you're in delta wave sleep, or you're generating delta waves in your brain is much more susceptible to suggestion, much like in a state of being in a state of hypnosis. So there are three basic methods of havening. The first one is called wash your hands. And you just do this about once a second. The frequency for brain waves, delta brain waves, is 1 to 3 hertz or per second, times per second. So this is about once per second. You'll see if in the UK, the gentleman there does it faster, about 3 times a second. Both work. I prefer the slower method. And so this is called wash your hands. Then there's give yourself a hug, where you start with your hands up at your shoulders and you just bring them down to your elbows, even all the way down to your hands. And just do it once per second. So the first one gives you about 7 times the number of brain waves, 7 times the amount of delta brain waves that you would have in normal waking state. This gives you about 30 times the amount of delta waves you would have in wakefulness. And the third one is called wash your face. And you just do this, nice and slow. Start up on your forehead, bring your fingertips all the way down to your chin, once a second, and you'll notice that it feels good. Well, now let me start the slides, and we'll go into some more details. I'll talk about affirmational havening and sort of where havening comes from, and the fact that it's been around since there have been people. So here we go. Again, this is loving your child's brain, giving them every chance to flourish throughout their lifetime. I'm Jim Hendricks, and you should know who I am by now. Not the Muppet guy, remember, and nor am I the greatest guitar player who ever lived. So more about havening. It was developed by Ron Wooten in the US. I talked about doing the movements, but it's really something that's instinctive to mothers with their babies. They caress their cheek. They'll caress the bottoms of their feet. It's kind of hard to caress the bottoms of your own feet. And they will rub the baby's hands. They will rub their arms, and those are all methods of havening, calming, and it calms the child down because it generates these delta wave brainwaves. So I went through the motions already. I want to talk about affirmational havening. This is something that is so fabulous to do with your child because you can get them, by doing the havening technique, you can get them in a state where they are susceptible to affirmations. Choose to feel safe. I choose to be hopeful. I choose to feel loved. I choose to feel strong. I choose to feel kind, considerate, confident, joyful, peaceful, safe, calm. And you can come up with any other affirmations you like. But it's really important for them to feel like they're making a choice. Anytime you can give your child a choice between things that are acceptable to you, you're empowering the child. When you say these affirmations and mimic this pattern of deep sleep, you're kind of hypnotizing the child when you're teaching them to do it do it for themselves. If they're very small, you can do it for them. If they're older, you can teach them how to do it, like the young lady in the picture. And you'll notice that it really feels good. Havening is somewhat akin to EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprogramming, which is really effective after someone has experienced PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. And it distracts the person while they are remembering or reliving the traumatic event. And it helps them to be able to remember it, but not relive it. And we'll talk about that later on. But I wanted to give you this tool called Havening because I think it's so Havening is more effective than EMDR when done correctly, and it's so easy to do. It's so easy to teach your and you can teach your teenagers to do it. And we'll get to later in the course how to bond with your child, especially with teenagers that are perhaps no longer so interested in you as they are in their friends. So we will talk about those kinds of things as well. Let me see what I have following this. Okay, so following this, I have another section. So this is just a tiny little piece for everyone to implement with their child immediately. Thank you for listening, and please, please, please do this with your child. So havening is so important. I wanted to provide it as a bonus for you before you buy anything. It is so powerful of a tool. The man who taught it to me was a psychiatrist, and he had witnessed his grandfather be run over by a tractor when he was very young. And he had lived with that, re-experiencing, reliving that memory over and over for probably 50 years or more. And he did that havening technique with a practitioner, which there are havening very traumatic situations, and I highly recommend that. But he was able in one session to go from re-experiencing that to just he could still remember it, but it wasn't so traumatic anymore. It was just a memory, and that is powerful. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next video.